Hi everyone, this is Dan and this is WireHead, written by Robert Geronimo with art by Michael O'Shea and Jeff Elkins, uh, lettered by Wes Locker, who basically letters all of the alternative stuff that you see out there. And these names should seem familiar because Robert Geronimo is the creator of Blood Realm. Probably, I'm not sure if it's the most popular, but definitely one of the popular titles from Alterna. And this book is interesting in that it's a genre that I rarely read, even though I know it's very popular among the indie comic crowd. In fact, probably the one thing that I see the most in indie comics is typically things that are horror or thriller or suspense. A lot of throwbacks to the EC, the East Coast, or what's the name? No, it's just EC Comics, right? The very famous comic house that nearly got everybody censored back in the 50s, I believe, right? But anyhow, Wirehead is a thriller, a horror thriller, and just getting into it real quickly, it's basically a bunch of kids in the woods getting massacred by this robot right here. It's kind of interesting. The first half of the book kind of goes through a lot of horror tropes. Like things kind of happen because they have to happen in order for the horror to work. So a bunch of kids are driving in the middle of the Pocono Mountains for whatever reason to go to a party. And then meanwhile, these reporters that are trying to do an expose on why people are missing in the mountains runs into this monster. All of them get kind of trapped up in this big thriller, as well as get killed in this big thriller. And it's nothing super special in terms of story. I feel like it's kind of fairly straightforward for your horror genre. Again, I'm not a big horror genre buff, but kind of like a lot of the things in here are kind of things that I've seen. There's some interesting twists at the end, and I'm not going to spoil it since, well, I guess it doesn't matter. Basically, the robot is created by like a former Japanese war crime person, and then that war crime person ends up turning one of these kids into like his new controller for this this Wirehead monster, who in the end is able to save two of them at the end by killing a bunch of corporate commandos that want to, I guess, shut down this whole project or something like that. Some Black Ops stuff. It's kind of like, okay, a little bit contrived at points. But I think some of this is more like these kind of books. I feel you almost have to turn off your brain when you're like. It's almost like watching King Kong or Godzilla. You kind of turn off your brain and you just sort of enjoy the thrill of it all, and people getting killed and trying to figure out who lives, who dies, right? So if you're into that kind of thing, this does do a pretty good job. The pacing's pretty good. It's just for me personally, I didn't find the story or I guess the motivation of it all very convincing. I will say this: the art is pretty interesting. I like the first half art more than the second half. There's a different artist in the second half. I believe this is Jeff Elkins, and it's not that his art is necessarily bad. It's more like his art is just too wide open. This is kind of like an art style that really needs color in order to pop. And I think one of the interesting decisions about this book is this book doesn't use tones that much, right? Like he starts using tones at the end, but you know, I really think since a lot of this is a little inspired by Japanese horror to a degree, I think the use of zipatones and gray shading a little more prodigious, especially in the second half of the book, because I think this artist would benefit more from it. I think that's a missed opportunity right there, and I think they you know, if there ever was a remastered edition of this book, or maybe a re-release through Alterna, I think that would be a really good idea, is to go back in with shading and tones, right? I don't think the second artist, or the first artist, I should say, needs it that much, because the first artist is very, very heavy with the brush here. So there's heavy blacks everywhere, which is appropriate for horror. In fact, I like it a lot. The first half, I think the art is to me gets me more in the mood. The second half, I feel, needs more either more blacks or more tones, shading in general, and I think it would work a lot better. Do more of a manga kind of thing is what I would say in the second half of the book. Other than that, what's kind of cool about this book is there's a real short prose opening right here, or prose ending right here, which is technically a prologue to WireHead. Kind of interesting right here. Some designs. This book came with 2 prints. By the way, this book is a different form factor. I don't know what form factors this is. It's not American comic book size, and it's not manga size. It's like in between manga and American comics. I guess, would this be considered an ashcan size? I'm not really sure. It's kind of interesting. But yeah, the book came with 2 prints. You had this one. Looks like this is by Michael Odom, 2020. Pretty interesting though. I don't like this. Looks very human-like, and WireHead's more mechanical, is what I would say. This one though is dope. I really like this one. This one's cool. Like this is something that'll freak you out. Like, here's something that'll kill you. It's pretty nice, man. Pretty nice. Yeah, there's also I forgot to add. There's like, yeah, when they run into the Japanese doctor, right? He's got like a really creepy schoolgirl daughter who's now like cybernetically rebuilt or some stuff like that. It's kind of creepy right there. I like how his like wardrobe right here is basically like cybernetic samurai suit of some kind. It's kind of interesting. Why does this remind me? I'm trying to remember what this reminds me of. It kind of reminds me of like Mojo World. You know, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that one. Well, you guys probably have. It's the X-Men. Yeah, no, it's an interesting read, and I enjoyed it. Even though when I go back through it, I kind of find I don't know. I was curious about this book just because a lot of people in indie comics are real big fans of horror and thrillers and stuff like that. I've never been a big fan of horror or thriller in the comic book format, just because I find that I don't get freaked out as much, or I don't feel nearly as scared as, say, the prose format. I think prose works way better because your mind can paint a picture often scarier than what other people can try to figure out. I think comic books can be very good at, I guess, creating visual horror that you probably have never seen, or sort of stirring your imagination. But in terms of like actually, freaking you out, I don't know. I feel like prose is actually a lot better than comics in this regard. But that might just be my opinion. Anyhow, real short review. Just wanted to kind of go over this guy real quick. That's it. Let me know what you think. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. If you got any comments on WireHead by Robert Geronimo, leave it down below, and I will see you next time.